Good evening, boys and girls. Today we're going to be looking at viewing sick sentences. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how sentence ambiguity can affect your writing. Our learning goals today are to critique sentences based on style and grammar, to apply knowledge of grammar and sentence structure to edit and revise sentences, and to compose sentences with clear meanings. So, you may be asking yourself, what is a sick sentence? So what are the two ways in which a sentence can be sick? We have grammatically and stylistically. Essentially, a sick sentence is a sentence that does not fulfill its purpose. A sick sentence doesn't clearly state the idea that you want your reader to understand from your writing. Okay? So we've all been learning grammar all of our lives. As soon as we learned how to talk, we've been learning grammar. We know grammar without even knowing that we know it. However, sometimes we get stumped on the grammar and we may spend too much time worrying about periods and commas and things like that when we should be worrying more about the style of our sentences. So a sentence can be sick in one or both of these ways, grammatically or stylistically. So there are some things we should always consider when we're writing and revising our sentences. We have the audience. So who or to whom or for whom are you writing your piece? The purpose. Why are you writing it? Are you trying to convince someone to, are you writing a persuasive piece? Are you trying to convince someone to believe something or to understand something? Or are you writing it to teach them something or tell them something? Also, we want to consider the voice. We want to consider how you're coming across to your reader. Okay, so are you writing it to your mom? You're going to write differently to your mother than you will to an English professor if you're writing a research paper. You want to keep in mind that your English professor is going to know all of the rules of grammar and is probably going to grade you on knowing those rules of grammar. Whereas if you're writing to a friend or a family member, you're going to use a more relaxed style and not focus on that so much. And what tone are you trying to set for your reader? Each of these plays a role in what is and is not acceptable for the specific piece that you are working on. So remember also that your words are all you have in order to convey your meaning and to captivate your audience as well, to create your mood, to accomplish your purpose. Unlike when you're speaking and you can use facial expressions, you can use body language, you can use tone of voice, you don't have that when you're writing. You have to put all of that into your piece, into your voice. Good writing is a first sentence that makes you want to read a second sentence, and a second sentence that makes you want to read a third sentence, and on and on and on. I think of revision, editing, conferencing, and peer review. I think of these things as a great gift we have as writers. When you're speaking, you don't necessarily get a second chance. You don't get a second chance to go back and re-say what you've already said. However, when you are writing, you do have that opportunity to go back and revise or edit or work with a partner in conference or do a peer review or work with your teacher in conference as well. So once words leave your mouth, they can't be unspoken. However, writing's different because we do get that opportunity to make changes and corrections. Writing is impermanent where speech is permanent. So the question arises, how do you know when your own writing contains a sick sentence or sick sentences? One of the best ways to know is to ask someone else to read your writing aloud to you. First of all, before you ask someone to read your writing aloud to you, you also want to apply your prior knowledge of grammar and style in writing as well. Consider the fact that you know what you're trying to say and your reader does not. So by asking someone else to read your writing aloud to you, then you can hear your writing from their point of view, and you can find out whether you actually, whether you did what you meant to do, whether you were able to get your point across in the way that you wanted to get it across. You can also ask your reader to tell you about your piece. When they tell you about your piece, then you will also know, did I get my point across in the way that I wanted to get it across? Okay? So since you as the writer know exactly in your head what you're trying to say, hearing your words from somebody else's perspective is very helpful. Now, let's look at some sentences that may or may not need some revisions. This first sentence is, while walking through the woods, the briars tore my shirt. Is this a sick sentence? When I look at that sentence, while walking through the woods, the briars tore my shirt. While walking through the woods is an introductory adverbial clause. Something has to modify that clause, and in this case, briars is modifying that clause. Can briars walk through the woods? No, they cannot. So is this a sick sentence? Yes, it is. It's not conveying the meaning that we want it to convey. So how can we fix that sentence? Now that we know, we have diagnosed that this sentence has a problem, how then can we fix it? What would you do in order to change it? Would you reorder the words? Would you completely change the sentence? There's not always one right answer in writing. Each person is going to write in their own way. Let's look at a second sentence. It is dangerous to give kids suckers on bikes. Now, in this sentence, the prepositional phrase on bikes is modifying suckers. I don't know about you, but in my brain, I kind of conjure up a picture of suckers on bikes. Perhaps if we change the order of the words in this sentence, it would be a better composed sentence. For example, we could say, it is dangerous to give suckers to kids on bikes. If you ever are bored and want a good laugh, you can Google or just look up online misplaced and dangling modifiers, because a lot of sentences that have these are pretty funny. Okay, let's look at how one word or phrase can completely change the meaning of a sentence. I enjoy cooking and eating my family. So sometimes when we're writing and we step away from our writing and we go back and we look at it in an attempt to edit it, we know what we were trying to say when we wrote this sentence. However, our reader does not know what we were trying to say. We may not notice that there's a word missing from this sentence. So, something as simple as leaving out one word can completely change the meaning of your writing. One word or phrase can make a major difference in the meaning of a sentence. Now, this sentence correctly would read, I enjoy cooking and eating with my family. But like I said, when you're looking over that writing, you may not notice that you've left out that word because you know what you're trying to say. If you have someone else read that sentence aloud to you, you're likely to notice that that word is missing and that your sentence is not conveying the meaning you intend for it to. Another thing we want to watch out for is to be careful when using words to compare. This sentence, we have more pigs than cows. Well, what does that mean? To one person, it may mean we have more pigs than we have cows. To someone else, it may mean we have more pigs than cows do. So be careful when you're using words such as more, fewer, less, because these words can they can have a vague meaning. Another thing to be aware of is words that can be inherently vague, such as many. We have many chickens on our farm. Well, many to me might mean 6, and many to you might mean 60, and many to you might mean 600. The word many does not give a specific idea of how many chickens you have in this specific example. So when you're using words like many, it may be better for you to use something specific in order for your reader to really get that vision that you're trying to help them conjure up in their minds. Another example would be, Caroline got up early to attend the writers' conference. Well, early could be 4 a.m. or it could be 10 a.m. What's early to one person is not early to someone else. These terms can be relative or they can be generalizations. And so you want to be careful with that if you want your writer to really be able to envision what you are writing about. Practice makes progress, not perfect. So none of us is perfect, nor will we ever be. The only way to improve in your writing is through practice. So right now I'd like for you to take out a pencil and paper, and I want you to write at least 3 sentences comparing winter and summer. And when you are finished, I want you to find a partner. With this partner, you're going to have them read your sentences aloud to you, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to read their sentences aloud to them. Through hearing those words, you will be able to see whether you accomplished your goal as a writer. So, this is going to help you see what changes, if any, need to be made to your writing. I hope this lesson has helped you to understand how and when sentences can be ambiguous, and to give you some ideas on how to cure those sick sentences. Thank you.